Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, where I cover vampires, werewolves, and other supernatural creatures. Today, we're going to be looking at The Last Voyage of the Demeter. This is the newest Dracula installment from Universal Studios since Dracula Untold in 2014. This movie is based on the chapter Captain's Log from the Dracula novel written by Bram Stoker in 1897. This chapter in the book follows the ship called the Demeter on its voyage from Transylvania to London. So let's go along for the ride and dissect this unique and creepy version of Dracula. If you enjoy videos about vampires and other supernatural creatures, leave a like and subscribe for new videos every week. The story begins with this message. In 1897, a Russian schooner was chartered to carry private cargo consisting of 50 wooden crates from Romania to England. We get to see the crates being delivered to the ship. Inside, we see a cane with a wolf head, and on the outside of the box is a symbol of a dragon. Back at the docking area, the captain says the crew is 3 men short, so they'll need to find a few hands before they set sail with the cargo. This is when we meet the main character, Mr. Clemens, as he's trying to find a way back to England. He shows up to apply for a position and says he can be the ship doctor if they need one. If not, it's been a while, but he knows his way around a boat and he studied astronomy, so he can navigate with the stars. Seems like the best candidate, but the first hand of the Demeter, Mr. Voyage, picks 3 others instead. A little later, the mysterious crates arrive to be loaded onto the Demeter. One of the men who delivered the crates says that they cannot stay to help load the cargo, because they must leave before the sun sinks. He then gives them some money and says, "For your men, we must go." Upon opening the bag, Mr. Voyage counts the money and says that's more than he paid to have the cargo delivered here. Sounds like these men know exactly what's in these crates and want as far away from it as possible. The crew begins loading the crates onto the ship, and as they do, one of the new men they hired sees the dragon symbol on the crate. This seems to scare him, and he momentarily lets go of the rope. The giant crate almost falls onto the captain's son, Toby. Lucky for him, Mr. Clemens was standing nearby him watching and manages to save him. This causes the captain to become furious, but so is the man who dropped the crate. He says, "You never said anything about dragons. I know this mark. It is a bad omen. Keep your gold, devil's serpent. God save you all. May he save the ship. May he save the crew." The man then promptly exits the ship and goes his way. This now leaves one crew position to be filled, and since he saved the captain's son, Mr. Clemens is offered the spot. The dragon symbol comes from the name Dracula. In Romanian, Dracul means dragon, and Dracula means of the dragon. Also, dragons are often depicted as evil creatures in Christian scripture. In the book of Revelation, Satan himself is symbolized as a dragon, and apparently Dracula and the devil are tied together. When the crate hit the ground, we see some dirt spilling out. In the original story, Dracula needs to rest on Transylvanian soil in order to regain his strength and rest during the day. It appears that's the case here as well. This is because part of his curse is that he must rest on the soil where he was born. And apparently by born, it means where he was turned into a vampire. Every so often we get some narration, which is the captain's entry in his log. Once they set sail, the captain records that they loaded Turkish cotton, 10 barrels of petroleum, and the private crates. There are 9 hands in total. Crew of 5, 1 ship doctor, 2 mates, a cook, and the captain. The crew is all in high spirits because they were promised a bonus if they delivered the crates early. The first night on the ship, as everyone is sitting down to eat, we see one of the crates open on its own. Suddenly, all the rats begin to run away. Later, one of the crew members says that there's no rats on the ship. Such a thing is against nature. When Mr. Clemens and Toby check on the livestock, the animals are going crazy as if something scared them. But they think it's most likely just a storm. A large wave hits the boat, causing one of the crates to fall over and open. There's a pile of dirt on the ground that fell out of the crate. Mr. Clemens walks closer to inspect it, and in the dirt is a woman. She was trapped in one of the crates. Mr. Clemens says that she appears to be infected. He attempts a blood transfusion in order to get as much of the infected blood out as possible. She remains unconscious for some time, and she will need to continue with the blood transfusions in order to save her. Not long after, we see a large creature emerging from one of the crates again and stand over the pile of dirt where the woman was, almost as if it's looking for her. The crew member Olgarin is on watch, and Mr. Clemens goes out to get some fresh air. While the two are on deck, something terrifies Olgarin. He was looking through his telescope when he sees some kind of monster. He quickly pulls the telescope away to look with his own eyes, but the creature is gone. Mr. Clemens also thought that he'd seen something, but couldn't be sure. The strange activity doesn't stop there though. The cook then finds the dog mutilated and all the livestock is dead. The crew can't figure out what happened, but they think it was possibly some kind of rabies that caused the animals to go mad. However, the ship doctor, Mr. Clemens, doesn't seem so sure. Inside the room where Anna is being kept, we can hear something whispering. Just on the other side of the wall is the creature. It's listening to her heartbeat and whispering her name. This shows us he has very heightened senses and knows who the woman is. The crew finds out that the woman's name is Anna because she is talking in her sleep. Toby thinks that she is having nightmares, and she keeps repeating one word: feed. The following night, the creature again emerges from its crate. This time, it goes up to the deck. Mr. Petrovsky hears a loud bang, so he goes up to the deck to check it out. He looks around to see if a member of the crew is up there, but he finds that the lid to the hold is broken open. He does a full sweep of the deck, and on the other end of the ship, he sees something in the dark, a creature lying on the ground. It's moving slowly and looks like it's wounded. He pulls out his knife and goes to take a closer look, but it suddenly springs to life and slashes at Petrovsky, then drinks his blood. After feeding, the creature must have thrown the body off the ship, because when the crew awakens the next day, there's no sign of Petrovsky. While they're trying to figure out what happened to him, the woman finally wakes up. She comes out onto the deck and becomes frantic, repeating, "He is here. We have to get off this boat." The captain confides in his log that Petrovsky has gone missing, and just a few days before, Olgarin reported seeing something strange, so we had the men search the hold. They didn't find anything suspicious though. Mr. Clemens manages to calm Anna down and asks her what happened, and why did they find her below deck. She says this: "It is spoken in my village of an evil that lives in the mountains above, a castle older than any of us. An evil that appears as a man when it wants to hide its true nature, and at night, he feeds in the blood of the innocent. I have lived in the shadow of that castle my whole life. I knew that the elders made bargains for the safety of our people. We call him Dracula." It sounds like Dracula was feeding on the people of this village until the elders made some kind of bargain with him. They would provide people for him to feed on, and in exchange, he probably doesn't kill them at random. I have a feeling this man from the beginning of the story that delivered the crates was also from this same village. Anna also tells us later that Dracula has controlled her village for generations. Mr. Clemens asks her, "Why did he bring you on board?" This is when she shows him that under her clothes, she is covered in bite marks. She was brought on board for food. This explains why Dracula slaughtered all the animals on board this same night they found Anna. With her gone, he had to find something else to feed on. I wonder if his plan was to try and make it all the way to London, only feeding on her. Seems unlikely, but it is possible if he was mostly sleeping and conserving her blood. It's interesting to note that nobody refers to Dracula as a vampire, not even once. They only refer to him as a devil. With each passing night, Dracula is becoming more and more bold. This time we finally get a good look at him. Larson is the man on deck, and he hears something strange, so he calls for Olgarin. Moments later, he arrives and says, "I heard your knock," but Larson never knocked on the ship. Allow me to quickly explain. We are told a few times that the easiest way for ship members to communicate is by knocking on the ship, and it will travel through the boards. The ghost knock alerts both Olgarin and Larson, so they pull out their knives and begin slowly walking around the deck. Larson looks up and suddenly Dracula jumps down and brutally smashes his face into the boards multiple times. In the novel, it's said that Dracula has the strength and speed of 20 men. The creature stops, looks at Olgarin, and smiles. He yells, "Please no," and runs away to the ropes and begins climbing. Once he is about 10 feet up, he turns around to see the terrifying creature following him. The creepiest part is that it simply repeats what Olgarin said back to him. This is the first time we get a good look at Dracula's face, and I really like the design. The smile is especially unsettling. The face reminds me of Beetlejuice, but not in a bad way. Dracula appears completely inhuman, with gray skin, faded eyes with no pupils, and fangs randomly spaced in his mouth. Larsson's body must have been thrown overboard by Dracula, similar to Petrovsky, because the next morning they find no body. Olgarin was bitten, but actually left alive, hanging from one of the sails on the ship. They bring the body down, and when he awakens, he starts screaming in a panic like he's completely traumatized. They have to restrain him on the table for now. You can tell from the captain's log that he's beginning to get worried. There's now 2 dead and 1 wounded. The captain wants the boat searched again, but this time not just the hold, the entire ship top to bottom. Once again, they find nothing. The sun is beginning to set, and the crew is getting nervous. One of them says, "I don't like this. The sun's going down and he'll be coming." The crate containing Dracula begins to stir and make noise. At the same time, Olgarin begins to shake and struggle against the ropes like he's having a seizure. When the crate finally opens, so do Olgarin's eyes. And now, they look just like Dracula's. He has clearly been infected with the same thing that Anna was infected with. Except, for some reason, Olgarin's infection seems to have progressed much faster. Anna had many bite marks and still wasn't fully turned. However, Olgarin turned in only 1 day. Given the fact that Olgarin woke up at the same time Dracula did, they must have some kind of connection. He escapes the table he was restrained to and finds his way to the captain's quarters. Toby hears something, so he opens the door and finds Olgarin standing in the hall. He gets closer, but when he sees Olgarin's eyes, he knows something is wrong. Toby runs into the captain's quarters and locks the door, but Olgarin begins smashing the door with his own face until he breaks through. Lucky for Toby, he can't reach the lock. Toby begins banging on the ship trying to get help, and the rest of the men hear it and rush downstairs. Mr. Clemens is the first to arrive, and he is attacked by Olgarin. One of the crew restrains him while the others ask Toby to unlock the door. Just as Toby is going to unlock the door, he sees something in the room with him. As the crew is telling Toby to open the door, they all see the creature in the room, making them momentarily freeze in horror. They quickly snap out of it and try to break the door down, but it's too late. By the time they get in, Dracula has already fed on Toby. I wonder if Dracula purposely targeted a child in order to stir up the crew or mess with the captain. I also wonder if Dracula was controlling Olgarin like some kind of familiar, because he went straight for Toby as well. We see Toby did survive this attack and is getting a blood transfusion to keep the infection at bay. Outside, they have tied up Olgarin again. He's acting as if he's possessed. Mr. Clemens says it's like some kind of poison or infection, but not like any he's ever seen. He remarks that Olgarin feels ice cold, very common for vampires and the undead. The animals on the ship were all bitten by Dracula in the same way, but they didn't turn, so I guess the infection can only be passed to humans. The crew is standing around talking when Olgarin says, "I can feel it. I can hear everything. The sea, the wind, the blood pumping in your veins." This is a pretty good clue that he is turning into something else. At first, I thought he might just be some kind of familiar or drone for Dracula, but after saying he can hear the blood pumping in someone's veins, that makes me believe he was turning into something like a vampire. Olgarin then says, "It burns." At first, I thought he meant the infection running through his veins. Then, the camera changes to show the sun is coming up. Olgarin begins to scream, "It burns," as his skin blisters and catches on fire. He remains conscious the entire time, screaming in agony as he burns alive until Mr. Voyage puts him out of his misery. There's no question that Olgarin was no longer human. We now also know that these creatures are weak to sunlight and will explode into flames if exposed to it.
What the hell happened to him?
This event has the crew quite shaken up, and Mr. Voyage says that at this rate, they are running out of men for the watch. The cook thinks that the kid will be the next one to rise from the dead, Satan's black blood pumping corruption through his veins. Mr. Clemens reluctantly agrees and says that whatever was in Olgarin is likely in the boy, since they were both bitten and survived. One of the crew says, "Why can't you do blood transfusions like you did with Anna?" But Mr. Clemens says that the boy is weaker. The wound was larger, and the blood loss was a lot greater. It's not looking good for Toby. Mr. Clemens decides to go looking for the creature and open the crates that were brought on board. Finally, someone thought of that. He asks Anna if bullets will kill Dracula, but Anna says, "He has controlled my village for generations. You think I have any idea how to kill him?" Mr. Clemens also shows Anna a piece of paper that says that the crates are being sent to Carfax Abbey, Dracula's England estate that he purchased through Jonathan Harker. Mr. Clemens and Anna go looking for where the creature sleeps. While looking through the hold, they find a crate with metal embellishments and a special locking system. They prepare to fight the creature, but when they open it, the crate is empty. Inside, it's full of dirt and the wolf head cane. Anna says they have found where the devil sleeps. Out on the deck, the cook is attempting to abandon ship. He is a religious man and is sure that they are doomed because of the sinners on the crew. He knocks out one of the other crew members and takes one of the lifeboats. However, he doesn't make it far before Dracula kills him.
Oh Lord.
Here, Dracula has wings and his face is much more monstrous, showing he can probably shapeshift into many different forms. He also has a full set of razor-sharp teeth this time. Once again, Dracula does that creepy thing where he repeats whatever the person is saying back to them. I actually found this really effective rather than coming up with some corny line. The next day, the captain's son Toby finally passes away from the infection. They wrap his body and are preparing to put it overboard when the captain suddenly says, "Wait, I seen him move." The other crew members try to reassure him that Toby has no heartbeat. He's gone, but the captain insists that he saw him move. He walks over and rips open the body bag and Toby lays there, lifeless, until he opens his eyes and they look just like Olgaren's. He grabs a hold of the captain and the sunlight causes Toby to burst into flames while screaming. He doesn't let go of the captain, badly burning him in a few places. One of the crew members grabs the captain and pulls him away while Mr. Clemens pushes Toby into the water. The crew are trying to figure out a plan when Mr. Clemens has a realization. Dracula was just using Anna for food until they reached open water, because once they're in open water, they can't go into port. Dracula's plan was to hide until they were beyond the point of no return and then begin killing them. They are now only a day away from London, which means Dracula doesn't need them to drive the ship anymore. This means they'll most likely be dead soon, but they devise a plan to kill the creature because they can't let it reach England. Their plan is to set a trap, sink the ship with Dracula on it. While preparing, Anna says, "We are connected, the devil and I. I can sense him, feel him somehow. He feels it too. He will come for me. And when he's focused on me, you know what to do." The crew is armed with guns and waiting for Dracula. On the side of the ship, we see some mist come creeping up onto the deck. This is definitely Dracula taking his mist form, something he was capable of doing in the original novel. Two of the crew members are in the crow's nest with guns. They think they are safe, but they are unaware that Dracula has wings. One of the men has a rope around his waist for safety, but Dracula grabs it and pulls the man off the platform and kills him in midair. Mr. Voyage then attempts to climb down the rope ladder, but is ambushed halfway down. He is knocked off the ladder, sending him falling through the hold and badly breaking his leg. He manages to use his good leg to get up and close the door behind him, buying him a little time. He then grabs the axe and begins hitting the side of the ship, with Dracula right behind him. He manages to break through the side of the ship just in time as Dracula kills him. I'm not sure if this would be enough to sink a ship though. Next, Dracula goes after the captain. He holds up his son's cross necklace and says, "I renounce you, devil." I thought that possibly this might save him, but the cross had no effect on Dracula and he bites the captain anyway. It looks like sunlight and possibly a stake to the heart might be the only way to kill him, since religious objects don't work, and we hear no mention of silver or garlic. His wolf head cane actually appears to be made out of silver, but that's just a guess. Mr. Clemens starts yelling aloud that Dracula wants to be a god, but is afraid to die just like every other living thing. This is a common theme in multiple Dracula films and shows. The idea that part of the reason that Dracula is still alive is because he is afraid of death. Mr. Clemens doesn't stand a chance against Dracula, but lucky for him, Anna is still there to help. Just as Dracula is about to kill Clemens, she shoots him, providing a distraction. Dracula then goes after Anna, wrapping her up in his wings as if he's trying to smother her to death. Clemens quickly grabs the axe though and hits him, allowing Anna to escape. The two make a run for the lifeboat, but Dracula grabs Mr. Clemens from above. While Dracula is about to kill Mr. Clemens, Anna cuts the rope on one of the masts, causing it to fall and pin Dracula to the ship. Mr. Clemens and Anna then jump off as the ship crashes into a bunch of rocks. However, it doesn't actually sink. It crashes into the shores, and when this happens, it shakes the boat, allowing Dracula to set himself free. He successfully made it to London. The morning comes and the two are still floating in the water just offshore. Except Anna looks different. Her eyes have changed and the infection has finally taken over. It looks like all those blood transfusions only prolonged the inevitable. She doesn't want to become like the others, so she pushes herself away from Clemens and allows herself to burn up in the sun. They started with a crew of 9, but in the end, Mr. Clemens was the only one to survive the voyage to England. The creature is hunting somewhere in the city, but thanks to that piece of paper Mr. Clemens found on the ship, he knows where the creature sleeps. Carfax Abbey. While sitting in the bar doing a sketch of Anna, he suddenly hears 2 knocks, just like how they did on the ship. He turns around and sees a shadowy figure sitting across the room with a wolf head cane. Somebody walks between them and Dracula instantly vanishes, but reappears right behind him before disappearing from the bar. This shows that Dracula can either teleport or move extremely fast. Mr. Clemens says that his goal is to hunt the creature down and send it back to hell. We are never told how Dracula became a vampire. The original book never reveals this mystery either. Some speculate that he performed some kind of spell or ritual that turned him into a vampire, since it's mentioned that he was a sorcerer, a necromancer. He may have performed some kind of magic on himself to become immortal. Or just like the movie Bram Stoker's Dracula, maybe he made a deal with the devil. That's my video on the last voyage of the Demeter. It's a pretty good horror movie, and definitely worth a watch if you haven't seen it. I think it was really interesting that they never called Dracula a vampire, only the devil, or a devil. I wish they would have said more about the village that was controlled by Dracula and his backstory. That was the most interesting part of the movie for me. The CGI was pretty good, but the practical moments were some of my favorites because I think they genuinely looked better. This design of Dracula was really creepy. I really liked how he looked in this scene. After I thought about it some more, Dracula's form at the end of the movie kinda reminded me of the creature from Midnight Mass. What do you guys think of this movie? Did it live up to your expectations? I'll say I wasn't blown away, but I wasn't disappointed either. I think there was some unnecessary dialogue and the opening foreshadowing scene wasn't really needed. Also, Anna said that Dracula would come for her, but he didn't seem to care at all. I wonder if Dracula's long-term plan was to kill Anna, or to possibly turn her into one of his brides. That's the only reason I could come up with as to why he would be so interested in her specifically. If there's any other movies, TV shows, or video games you want me to cover, leave them in the comments below. I always read through them. If you enjoyed, leave a like, and subscribe if you haven't. It helps out a lot and I really appreciate it. As always, a big thanks to my members for supporting the channel. Roderick, Jason Miller, Zothar's Paradox, Adam Mokabe, Gabriel Ragsdale, Matthew Batson, Dragonfey Rose, Emily Nixon, Onyx Cat, Dominique Toussaint, Czar Shadow, Steve Lloyd, Jake Walker, Awesome Pea Shooter, Cyper2890, Mark Thorpe, Steven556, Owen Wildish, and Joseph Roman. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.